1, here's John Inverdale.
Onside tonight, a lineup with all the right qualities. We've got wit, the Doc, football's joking jock. Then there's wisdom, the wise man in Chelsea's midfield. We've got grace, the gymnast that achieves perfection. And we've got courage, the racer with wheels of steel. With studio guests Tommy Docherty, Dennis Wise, Tanni Gray and Nadia Comaneci, we also have pure charisma in the shape of Andre Agassi on the comeback trail and eyeing another Wimbledon triumph. That's all tonight, Onside. Well, you could say that Chelsea are England's last team in Europe, or you could say they're Europe's first team in England. Either way, they came back from the dead to get through last week to the Cup Winners' Cup final.
And here's Zola with time. And Poyet! Vialli. And here's Zola! Hughes. Away from the defender, Mark Hughes, he's done it! They are through to their first European final for 27 years.
Well, that's what happened. Let's get Wise after the event. Dennis Wise. Few Chelsea fans in tonight.
Yeah, just a few.
Now, 2 finals in one season, not bad for, well, given all that's been happening off the field as well.
Yeah, it's great for the club, it's great for the players as well, and it's been a good year this year. I think Luca took the job at a very tricky time, and he's done extremely well, and it's good for him.
I must ask you very early on about Ken Bates' comments in the programme yesterday, saying that Ruud was a playboy who wasn't devoting himself to the club. What did you think of that?
I think Ruud took a long time to decide what he wanted to do, and the club weren't willing to wait that long. It happened with Glenn Hoddle as well. They lost Glenn Hoddle at a time when they needed to sort a manager out, and they didn't want to come to the same situation at the end of the year. So they...
So do you have sympathy with Ken Bates' position?
Yeah, it's very tricky for Batesy, and it's hard for him because he has to make sure that the club's the main thing, so he has to make sure that we have got a manager at the end of the season. That Ruud hadn't sorted the contract out, so we didn't want to be left in the lurch again.
So do you, in a sense, feel that Ruud actually cooked his own goose?
Not cooked his own goose, whatever, but I think if it could have been sorted out before, and it wasn't, so that was a situation, but it could have also turned around in Ken Bates' face. We could have got knocked out. I think we were 2nd or 3rd in the league, and in 2 cups at the time. So he could have turned around. We could have got knocked out of the 2 cups, but he took a gamble and took a chance, and it's worked.
Now, you were Luca Vialli's great pal when he was just a player. Now he's a manager, which I'm sure must have sort of changed the relationship a little bit. But we keep seeing these reports on the continent that he might go back there next year. Does he say to you over a beer, Dennis, I'm staying? No,
he's staying, simple as that. Luca's a man of his word, and he's here for 3 years, and he'll see it out. I think his main ambition is to win the championship. His ambition now is to win the Cup Winners' Cup, and he'll be staying, he'll be buying some players as well, I think.
We always, nowadays, think of you in terms of Chelsea, but in days gone by, you were one of Wimbledon's crazy gang, the infamous with Fash and Vinnie Jones and people like that. Were you really crazy, or was that a media, concoction?
I think we just like to enjoy ourselves, basically, and it was about enjoying football and enjoying ourselves, and we wasn't taken as we was going to win lots of things. We were just hoping to stay in the big league, and we did.
So what was the wildest thing you ever did?
We had a situation where I think me and Vinny, I used to show him a trick, and Sam was sitting there one day and he was trying to work...
Sam Herman, who owns
Sam Herman, sorry. And he was trying to work the trick out, and I said to him, Sam, look, if you work the trick out, what I'll do, me and Vinny will take all our clothes off, walk out of... leave our pants on, sorry. Walk out of the hotel, and we'll get on the bus. I said, but if you don't, this was away to Man United. We can pull the sleeves of your shirt off, and you go in the boardroom with the sleeves of your shirt off. So we said, I'll give you 30 seconds, and he couldn't do it. So he took his jacket off, and we ripped both sleeves off, and he went in the boardroom with the sleeves off his shirt. So it was one of the nice things, you know. We enjoyed it as well. But
you would say, actually, that's what kept the club so together, wasn't it? The great bond between the top and the bottom.
I think it was because the players were nobodies. You know, we'd come as a free transfer. Vinny cost 15 grand, and at the time, Fashad cost 125 grand. He was the record buy. And there was a will to win, you know. We wanted to do well because we were nobodies. And when you get a group of players like that together, they want to do well.
But on the other side of the coin, you know, that's the joking side. I'm sure people will remember 3 or 4 years ago, you had the incident with the taxi driver when actually you got a jail sentence or custodial sentence on the back of that. And I have read a lot of occasions subsequently that you say that actually changed your approach, not just to football, but to life in general.
Yeah,
in what ways?
Basically, it calmed me down. I had to. It was one of them. It just... you had to sit down and realise that you could lose everything by doing something wrong. I actually didn't do much wrong, but because people don't know the full story of it. But I got sentenced to prison, and when you sit in the cell for a couple of hours or whatever, it makes you think about things, and you have a bit of a panic up that you could lose everything and mess everything up. And it made me think that those couple of hours in sitting in the cell, it's not very nice. It made me think about it, and I thought about a lot of things, and it changed me. It changed me in many ways.
OK, well, we'll talk more in just a second, especially also about World Cup ambitions, if you've still got any. But Chelsea, obviously, a swinging gear again these days, like they were in the 1960s, when the man at the helm was actually starting out on one of the most extraordinary of all managerial careers, during which time he's never been short of a word or two.
I did dinner last year, Nottingham University. 800 teenagers. It was unbelievable, actually. You speak too quick, they all start dancing.
The only assets clubs have nowadays are players. Money's no good to them, and I would rather have my good players. After all, there's no use in being the richest club in the 4th Division.
There's a fella at Man United who played in goals, a fella called Paddy Roach. You might not have heard of him. The worst goalkeeper I've ever seen in my life, actually. He was like a crocus. He came out once a year.
Lots of clubs and managers and chairmen who probably more rows than we do, but I've never really had a row with him since I came here. He sacked me once, but I've never had a row with him.
Doug Ellis of Aston Villa, Deadly Doug. The night before he sacked me at Aston Villa, he said, "Don't worry, Tommy, I'm behind you." I said, "I want you in front of me, not behind me."
Would you welcome the manager of Chelsea, Rotherham, Queen's Park Rangers 3 times, Aston Villa, Porto, Scotland, Manchester United, Derby, Sydney Olympics, South Melbourne, Preston Wolves and Altrincham, Tommy Docherty. So, out of all those many clubs you managed, where did you leave your heart?
Well, Chelsea was great for me because that's where I first began. That's where the first opportunity I got. The days of Bonetti, Shalito and McCready. Holland, Sinton, Harris, Cook, Osgood, Venables, Graham and Tanni. Great side. The late Chopper Harris was a great skipper as well. He's not dead, he was just late all the time. The King's Road was, well, like it is now. Just the whole place is just buzzing. It was alive, actually, and it was...
Mind you, of course, in those days, you had sort of Twiggy and Michael Caine used to come and watch, whereas you get David Mellor and Tony Banks, don't you?
Yeah, what with them two? God, dear me. David Mellor, he's not really a Chelsea supporter, is he?
I'm waiting for the punchline here, Tommy.
I just remember that girl when she was licking his toe. I think she was trying to get as far away from his face as she possibly could.
We'll come back and talk about Chelsea in just a second, actually. But your stint at Old Trafford, when you look at what Alex Ferguson has managed to achieve, and let's face it, he was close to getting the bullet at one stage, but the board were patient with him. Do you think that you might have been able to establish that sort of centre of excellence with a bit more time?
I don't know, really. It's very difficult to say. The game has changed dramatically. There's more money today. The clubs make more money today. The players get more money, quite rightly so. It's very difficult to say whether he'd have done as well. Alex had a fantastic time at Old Trafford. He had a dicey spell when he first come to the club, but the directors had a lot of confidence in him, and they gave him that extra time that he needed. Got to the cup final, won the cup, and he was just taken off from then on in.
Mind you, a lot of boards haven't given you time, have they? What was the most bizarre sacking you endured?
Jim Gregory, Queen's Park Rangers. After about a week, he called me in and he says, "I'm calling it a day." I said, "Don't be daft, you're doing a marvellous job as chairman." And I think that would be the weirdest one, because we had a magnificent start to the season, and Jim was one of those men, like, one day he'd give you £1 million, the next day, if he was a ghost, he wouldn't give you a fright.
Why do you think you did keep being sacked by various clubs? What was it about you? Did they feel threatened by you, these chairmen?
No, I don't know, really. I mean, I was a young manager at the time, very inexperienced, and I sort of rode roughshod over a lot of the directors. Lack of experience. People say to you today, "Oh, you'll be a good player when you get experience, or you'll be a good manager when you get experience." But that's the one thing no one can give you. And I was only sacked, I mean, of all the clubs I've had, I was only sacked, what, 4 times. The 3 for footballing reasons, the other one was, you know, for something else. You know.
Was there one signing that you made in those many managerial spells where almost the moment the player put pen to paper, you thought, "I've made a terrible mistake here"?
Oh, quite a lot of times, yeah, not just once or twice, yeah. Tony Hateley from the Villa, I paid 150,000 quid for. Nice lad, good pro, lacked one thing, ability. After 6 games, I sold him to Liverpool. He had a terrible time he had, and I sold him and shanked him at Liverpool. And Bill rang me up one day and he says, "How much do you want for the boy Hateley?" I says, 100,000 wouldn't buy him. He says, "I know, I'm one of the 100,000.
Would you sign him? Is he your sort of player?
Yeah, Dennis is my sort of player. He's a winner. Yeah, he's a winner. Maybe gets involved too much, but that's better than people who don't get involved. And he's a winner, and I think he hates losing. He hates drawing, never mind losing. And that's the type of player. You've got to get 12 or 13 like him.
Talking about hating losing, actually, Dennis, have you almost resigned yourself now, because you're not involved in the England setup this week, to not going to France this year for the World Cup?
Yeah, I've booked my holiday, put it that way. No, I don't think I'll go. I don't think he'll pick me. Simple as that.
And is it a source of sadness with you that what seemed like a great relationship that you had with Glenn Hoddle has gone a bit sour?
I don't know about a great relationship. He was a manager and I was a captain, and we had a disagreement sometimes. But I never actually knew him personally. He was just a manager, and I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't think I'm good enough to play for him, and I have to accept that. So, and I can't do nothing about it. Just keep playing as well as I can for Chelsea.
Do you think that England have a viable chance come the summer?
Yeah, I do. I think they've got a great chance of winning it. They got if the spine of the team is right, I think they have got a great chance. You know, I do.
What about Scotland, Tommy? As an ex-World Cup player yourself, what about Scotland's chances this
We've done to qualify. We've done well to qualify. We've done very, very well to qualify on a regular basis. This time, I think we'll be. I think this time we'll be home before the postcards.
Dennis actually was. Dennis was saying earlier that he had a measure of sympathy for Ken Bates' position at Chelsea. Is Ken Bates your kind of club chairman, or is the only club chairman that's a good one to you at Denver?
And I mean, he's great for Chelsea, but for me, he used to football what King Herod was to babysitting.
So what is the what qualities does the ideal club chairman need?
I think the ideal club should have 6 directors, 3 dead and 2 dying. A good club chairman is a chairman who lets the manager manage and lets the manager get on with the business of running the footballing side of the club and stays out of the rest of it. His job is to run the administration side of the club with the club secretary. But the manager's job is everything appertaining to the running of the footballing side of the club. I'm not saying Ken Bates doesn't do that, but I don't like him.
Now, here you are. Can you believe this? Tommy Docherty, 70 this week. Do you fancy one more foray into management if somebody rings you up tomorrow?
I've seen some of the games this season. I've got a game, never mind getting a manager's job. No, I've had my time and I've loved every minute of it. You know, managing Chelsea was a great, marvellous club, Manchester United, and people like that, great clubs like that, and great players, and some good chairmen. Mr. Old Rotherham chairman, Eric Pursehouse was a lovely chairman. Joe Mears, the father, was a magnificent chairman, probably the best I ever had. But I've had some dodgy chairmen as well. But I've been responsible for a lot of more undoing as well, actually. The way, as I said, I rode roughshod over them.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you'll wish Chelsea and Dennis the best of luck in the Cup Winners' Cup.
Always delighted to see them winning and being successful. They're a great club and they've got a great affection for everyone at Stamford Bridge, except Ken Bates, of course.
A former and a present member of the Stamford Bridge gang, Dennis Wise, Tommy Docherty, thank you very much indeed. There are 2 European finals on BBC television over the next 3 or 4 weeks. 3 weeks, actually, on Wednesday, you can see Chelsea, Dennis all against Stuttgart in the Cup Winners' Cup final. And then the UEFA Cup final, Lazio against Inter Milan. That's a fortnight on Wednesday. Well, Andre Agassi and Nadia Comaneci coming up. But first of all, a question for you. Can you name the British athlete who's won 3 of the last 5 London marathons? Well, here's the answer. Tanni Gray, sportswoman supreme. 10 years ago, disabled sport was spoken of in disparaging terms, if it was spoken of at all. But in the past decade, with Tanni in the vanguard, it's assumed a stature that few could have imagined. The 28-year-old from Cardiff has won 5 Olympic golds and broken 6 world records. An MBE and now a top athletics administrator, this coming weekend, she tries for her 4th London Marathon success, and she'll raise £40,000 for the RNLI into the bargain. Ladies and gentlemen, Tanni Gray. So, are you an athlete or are you a disabled athlete?
I'm an athlete first, and I just happen to compete in a wheelchair. I see it very much as a piece of equipment, very much, you know, like Chris Boardman has his bike. I just have my racing chair.
And how much has sport given you the sort of maybe self-esteem that you might not have had without it?
I think I probably had it anyway. I mean, I've always been really competitive, and sport's just probably the best thing for me to get involved in. I played a lot of sports when I was young and was completely useless at all of them, and eventually just found athletics. So I was lucky that I found the right sport eventually. But you weren't disabled from birth. It was a sort of gradual thing through your school days, wasn't it? Was there a point where you said, damn it, I'm going to fight against this and show the world? Being in a wheelchair's never been an option for me. It's just always been something that's there. I can't change it, so what's the point of worrying? And as soon as, you know, I got involved in sport, I loved it. I loved the individual side of athletics, and it went from there for me, really. Actually, you mentioned Chris Boardman. I'm sure there's a great deal of ignorance about the equipment that you have. I mean, do you all race in the same chairs? No, there's lots of different chairs. I happen to have a very good one, which helps. But so you can have a sort of like a super chair, like a super bike? Yeah, but, I mean, a lot of the chairs now, they're all custom built for the athlete, so the chair I have is totally fitted around me, and I can actually only get in it if I've got one layer of Lycra on. So it's like, no eating chocolates, be really careful how much weight I put on. But it's important that you have a chair that fits you that well, because unless you have a good piece of equipment, then, you know, you can't do the times for London Marathon or, you know, the track racing that you need to be doing. Well, you mentioned the marathon. I mean, you compete at 200 metres, and yet at marathon. Now, able-bodied athletes could never compete with that amazing range. So you must have the most incredible biceps, apart from anything else, do you, or not? Now, I've got a good power-to-weight ratio, but it's a lot like cycling. So again, like Chris Boardman, who can do the short events on the track and then can do the Tour de France, we do the same. You know, I can do sprinting on the track and then, you know, have a few marathons a year. I'm better on the track than the road. I either have a really good road race or a bad road race. So, and with London, I have a good year and a bad year. So last year was my bad year, so fingers crossed for this year.
And as it's sort of a wheeled sport, is there a sort of Schumacher kind of figure in your world that when you see them coming, you think, I better get out of their way?
My boyfriend, actually. Yeah, Ian competes, and if anyone will cut me up on the road, he'll do it. So I stay away from him.
How fierce are the penalties if you knock someone over?
Get disqualified. It depends how close to a marshal you are. So it's a case of doing it, cutting people up on corners, pushing them to curbs, and not being near a camera or a marshal.
Now, you have very much, as we said earlier on, been in the vanguard of getting disabled sport a higher priority and a bigger publicity value, television, radio, newspapers, whatever. Of course, the moment that happens and money comes into the sport, people start cheating, don't they?
Yeah.
So how much does it sadden you that we seem to also have a big drugs problem now in disabled sport?
I don't think it's that big a problem. There are issues that there are athletes who are starting to cheat, but I think one of the things we can learn from mainstream sport is the good testing and actually making sure that disabled athletes aren't doing it. So we have quite a rigorous drug testing programme, which is a pain in the neck, you know, if you're a clean athlete, but it's something that you have to do. But, you know, they always get you when you haven't drunk all day and, you know, they get you last race at night and you have to be there till 2 o'clock in the morning. But I think most athletes understand that, you know, if you're clean, you'll get away with, you know, you'll do it. You don't mind.
But having succeeded in getting a higher profile for your sport, I'm sure there will be people, with all due respect, here tonight and watching, who will say, but with the best one in the world, I don't care. How do you make people care?
I don't know. You'll always get people who just hate sport.
But I meant purely in terms of sports fans who will say, yes, but this sport is not of a high enough quality as far as I'm concerned to make me want to watch it. How do you get them to change their mindset?
I think just by going out and doing the best that I can as an athlete and getting the British team to do the best they can. The Paralympic athletics team is hugely successful and I think the recognition will come. As an athlete, I don't train any differently to anyone who can walk. You know, I'm out there 6 days a week, you know, 49, 50 weeks a year. I do 10 sessions a week, you know, anywhere between 80, 120 miles. So if people don't understand that I'm an athlete, then it's, you know, it's their problem. You know, I know I'm an athlete, my coach, my family, everyone around me knows I am, and that's all that matters.
Just one final question. What would be your ultimate ambition for disabled sport per se?
I suppose just for it to keep on developing. You know, Britain's doing really well. I suppose have a good Sydney. That's, you know, you go from one games to another. Sydney's sort of the most important thing coming up. So hopefully we have a good time there.
Well, good luck for a 4th London success this coming Sunday. Thanks very much. Tanni Grey, everybody. And you can follow the waiter, the juggler, Mickey Mouse, the Pink Panther and the 30,000 other competitors this Sunday on BBC One, starting at 8:45. Well, from the finishing line to the baseline, so many observers of modern tennis bemoan its lack of characters, big serving automatons taking over the world and all that. But amongst the grey men, there's still the odd sparkling superstar.
Today we'll talk more about proper tennis procedures. Let's begin with the stroke, always keeping your eye on the ball and maintaining a steady body position. Never, never try to hit too hard. Avoid overexcitement. In tennis, conservative attire is a must. Now you're on your way to really having fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Andre Agassi. Andre, thanks for talking to us. Here you are, just on the fringe of the world top 20 again. How does it feel to be back?
Oh, well, it feels incredible. I've been working really hard to get back. It's been something quite important to me, and to have this success this early in coming back this year is a phenomenal accomplishment in my own mind, and I certainly hope that more good things are in store.
How much have you missed it?
I've missed it a lot. It's been you know, something that has been very dear to me for a number of years. I've been playing professional tennis now a long time, and at this stage of my career, it's something that I want to do for myself, for my own reasons, my own personal enjoyment, and you know, the game's been good to me, so it's time I not only give more back, but get to enjoy it at the end here.
But talking about giving things back, how much do you think tennis has missed you?
How much has tennis what?
How much has tennis missed you, do you think?
Well, it's tough for me to be that objective about that particular part. I know that I've missed the game a lot, and I hopefully have 3 to 5 years of great tennis left, and it's just something I think everybody can benefit from, certainly.
We had John McEnroe on this program a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the need for people to be different in the tennis arena. Do you consciously try to be different, or is that just the way it is?
No, I never quite tried to be different. I think people gave me much more credit for calculating much of my career than I deserved. I just went out there and hit the ball as hard as I could, and just played the game the way I thought it should be played, and you know, said things that I felt, and I found myself being kind of stereotyped for, you know, in a lot of different ways, but I've also gotten a lot of support.
So we have this image over here of you being, if you like, a rebel in a conservative game, but you'd say you're not?
Off the court?
On it or off it?
Well, I mean, I think on the court I play with great intensity, and I play the game differently than it had been played before. You know, I turned pro, the game was played a certain way. I came in and started doing it a little differently, and now a lot of guys are swinging hard from both sides, and it's been nice to take the game to that next level and to be a part of that. Off the court, you know, I'm just an easygoing married guy now.
We keep reading about how your dad sort of said at the age of 4, we want you to be a tennis player, keep playing, you know, keep hitting balls, and your doubles partners at the age of 5 were like Connors and and Nastasi and Gonzalez and things like that. Was there never a time in your early years that you felt like saying, I've had enough of this game, I want out?
I think you go through a lot of emotions, you know, with a lot of up and downs in my career especially, but, you know, it's always something you come back to. You know, you have hard losses, you know, losses that, you know, are tough to recover from. 2 French Open finals, a couple U.S. Open finals that I didn't win, and, you know, it's tough to recover from those, but ultimately you got to get better from your losses. I think that's what really makes a champion, and for me to come back now is important for me to do it for myself. I mean, it's nothing that I've wanted to walk away at different times, but never more than for a split second.
Now, that's a natty raincoat you've got on there. How much are you a tennis player, do you think, and how much are you a fashion icon?
Well, I appreciate the question even. You know, I never even think about it. I just, you know, I look at things and I have opinions about them. But I don't try to make...
Sorry, I was going to ask you how much pressure you were put under by the people who are paying you, let's face it, millions of dollars, to get back to the top of the game.
No. I mean, at this stage of the ball game, it's not about money. It's not about people making me do anything that I don't want to do. I make decisions for myself. I always have, but especially at this stage of my career, it's something that I'm doing for me and me only. And I think there's been a lot of support and a lot of nurturing of my desires to come back. But to say anybody's kind of been pushing me is not exactly the truth.
There is one question I have to ask you as well, because when everybody in the office heard you were going to be on the programme, I have to say it was mostly the girls, actually. They wanted to know, why did you shave your body hair off all those years ago at Wimbledon?
I never shaved it off. I just trimmed it very short, you know, very short. If you shave it all the way off, you know, it grows back very rough, you know, very, very hard, and it starts itching. I don't like that. I just trimmed it because I got tired of it taking me so long to dry after I got out of the shower.
So what's the state of the body hair these days?
It's at a medium length, enough to get people to stop asking me the question.
All right. Now, we over here, as sort of spring is sprung over here and it's raining as ever, are looking towards Wimbledon. And we always are going to talk for the next 2 months incessantly about maybe a British winner of Wimbledon. What are your thoughts on the respective merits of Tim Henman and Greg Rosetsky?
Well, there's a lot of talent between both those guys. Tim Henman is a wonderful talent. He can play the entire game well, from the backcourt to forward court, serve. His moves well. Same with Rosetsky, who is I mean, I feel like Greg, who can hold serve on any surface. If you can hold serve, you're a factor to be dealt with. you know, Wimbledon's a bit tough for the English players just based on the attention that goes there, and there's a lot of pressure, and sometimes that interferes. But they're great talents, and I would expect you know, one of them to always be a concern and a threat to win.
Have you got another Wimbledon title in you, do you think?
I do. I really believe I do. You know, it's a shot-making tournament, and it's easy to hold serve. It's tough to break, and I feel like if I'm returning well and, you know, really working hard on my serve, some good things can happen those 2 weeks. I get a lot of support in London, and I love being there. I love playing there. There's something about the feeling that you have when you're there that brings out some great tennis, and I can't wait to go back.
One question I must just ask you about one more player as well, Marcelo Rios, the new world #1, who I know is injured at the moment. But over here we have this image of him as being a rather sort of bad-tempered person who's not very well liked on the circuit. Is that fair?
Well, he's always been very respectful to me, very, very nice to me, so I won't, you know, have anything negative to say about him. He tends to keep to himself, and he has his own ideas about how he chooses to handle himself on the court and off the court. And you know, some people have a problem with it, it seems. Every time I pick up the paper, I read something like that. But he's been very, very nice to me, and he's a talented guy who's, you know, who's still young. So, you know, cut him a little slack.
OK, you say you think you've got 5 or 6 more years left in you as a player. Have you thought what life might be beyond tennis yet?
Not so much as far as what I'm going to do or, you know, how I'm going to spend my days. I know that I'm looking forward to the rest of my life with my wife and family and the whole program as far as family goes. But as far as where I put my energies and my focus, it's not something that I would be able to say right now. The tennis is very important to me for a while longer, so I have some more time to think about that.
You've got no ambitions in the film world yourself?
Absolutely not.
Definitively and absolutely. Well, Andre, it's great to see you back, you know, pitching at the top in the tennis world. Thanks an awful lot for talking to us. Ladies and gentlemen, Andre Agassi. Now, how many people do you know in any walk of life that have ever achieved perfection? We know of one. In the list of all-time great Olympians, Nadia Comaneci stands at the very top. A prodigious talent at 6, an international at 9, on the very first day of the Montreal Olympic Games, aged just 14, she scored a perfect 10. The first of 5 unprecedented maximums. After 3 Olympic golds in '76, she won 2 more in Moscow 4 years later, denied the overall title by blatant biased Soviet judging. But all her success came against the backdrop of the Ceausescu regime's tyranny in Romania, from where she escaped in 1989 to take up US citizenship. But the image of the 14-year-old waif who dominated the world is one of the most enduring in all Olympic history. Ladies and gentlemen, Nadia Comaneci. So when you've been told you're perfect at 14, what do you do after that?
Nothing, I guess. I didn't expect to receive a perfect 10. I didn't know that I was the first one that got a 10. Because if you think back in 1976, when they turned the scoreboard, there was a 1.00 because they had only 3 digits. They couldn't make a 10. So usually I'm not watching the scoreboard because I think I did a pretty good routine. I expected to get probably 9.8 or 9.9. And when I saw 1.00, I was confused because I didn't know I did that bad. So I didn't know what that meant.
Do you think it was that good?
If I watch my routines now that I did in '76, it looks pretty perfect. But inside, because I did so many times the same routine, it was not as perfect that I did some other routines, so it was a little bit different, but it looks perfect on TV.
When you were 14 and a Romanian girl a long way from home, how did you celebrate that amazing achievement?
Well, we went back from the competition, and they put me the first one to get out of the plane with my medals. And then when I saw so many people, I ran back on the plane because I didn't realize there would be so many people out waiting for me.
We said at the start that you were a gymnast at 6, international at 9, and it's easy to forget now because it does almost seem like a long time ago that there was this great Eastern European domination of so many sports. What sort of a training regime did you actually undergo in those days?
I started gymnastics when I was 6 years old, and the reason I started was because I was that kind of kid that had a lot of energy, and I was jumping around in the house and destroyed the furniture. So my mom took me to a gymnastics school. I was lucky that in the city where I was born, there was a gymnastics school. And that's how I started involved in gymnastics.
But subsequently, when you were actually competing internationally, did you feel you were being pushed beyond what you should have been or not?
No, I never felt that, because I got involved because I loved the sport. And at the beginning, I used to do only one time a week. And then when I turned 12 years old, the hours add up, because you know, you start involved in a sport, and then the next thing after you accomplish, you learn things, the next thing is that you want to compete. And you want challenge, and then after you have experience of competition, there are some kids that are better than you, and you try to add some more hours to be better than they are. And that's how I ended up before the Olympics, with 2 years before I used to train 7 hours a day.
You talk about competing, and of course you were flying the Ceausescu regime's flag overseas. Did that ever infringe on your life, or were you oblivious to what was happening at home?
I had no idea what was happening, because I was just a kid. And I think in a way it's better that I didn't know too much. When I look back now, I think different, but I was happy I didn't know too much.
But when you defected, it's actually almost like a story from Sound of Music, isn't it? That you sort of walked for hours across the hills to get away.
It's like a bad script for a movie, yeah? I defected in '89, and I had no idea that the revolution was coming. I'm not sure what my decision wouldn't been if I knew the revolution would happen in Romania. And there was a difficult time for everybody, not only for me, because it's hard to explain how a communist system works, because you have to live there to understand how it is. You know, you're told what to do, you follow all the time. And I just took that chance to get out of the country in 1989, and it was very difficult because I had to leave my family behind, and I never told my mom I'm leaving because I thought she's going to have a heart attack if she knew. But I had to tell my brother because he was living with me in the house, and if you live in a communist system, you're a traitor. That's how the system works, and they take away everything you own. So I had to tell my brother, so he knew, and he had to do some arrangements with the house.
So did you just literally leave in the dark at night time and just sneak out with nobody watching?
I left with 6 more people in the dark, yeah, and it was one person that did that 3 times, and they caught him, and they sent him to jail, and he tried it again with us, and the only thing I remember, he told us that, keep it to the right, because if you go too much to the left, you're going to end up in Bucharest again, so... We were walking, and we had no idea where we were. They said that you have to cross the border. It's a piece of black ground, and I mean, we passed 12 pieces of black ground, and we still didn't know where we were.
Now, when you look back on your Olympic career, how proud can you be at this distance of what you achieved those years ago?
I'm really, really happy, because my life that I have today is because of what I did when I was 14. And it wasn't difficult for me, because there was something, of course there was a lot of hours of work, but when I look back, the years are gone. I would have been 36 today, and now when I look back, I accomplished something in my life, and I'm happy.
You sure did. Well, you are one of the great Olympic greats. Thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you.
Nadia Comaneci. Next week, Europe's top golfer, 2 men eyeing places in the Summer's World Cup squads, and an Olympic great, another Olympic great, Colin Montgomery, Sol Campbell, Ali McCoist, and Sebastian Coe, all onside next Monday. We'll see you then.
OK, 5 top things about Nick Hornby. 1, he understands football.
I've heard it twice. It's brilliant.
2, he understands men.
He can say in a couple of sentences what you've sort of always thought.
3, he can explain men to women.
And I said, has it sort of improved your relationship? She went, no, I chucked him.
4, Fever Pitch and High Fidelity have sold nearly 1.5 million copies.
These are books written for the boys who were always in the kitchen at parties.
5, he's on Omnibus. Tomorrow at 10 to 11 on BBC.